Hello again everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the channel. If you're new, perhaps tuning in for the first time, a very warm welcome on board to you. Please do click the subscribe button down below and don't forget to give these videos a like as well. Today we're continuing our PMDG 737 tutorial series from Microsoft Flight Simulator. We're keeping it simple and hopefully it's going to help quite a few of you get started, as I did at 0 hours, with this fantastic aeroplane add-on, or MSFS. Today takes us into Brussels, Echo Bravo Bravo Romeo, and we're going to be doing the ILS approach to runway 19. I'm going to go through some of the tips, tricks, and I'm going to share what I've learned so far with you guys, so you too can replicate the same approach. If you do have any tips yourself, and you're a bit of a 737 pro, then do share them in the comments below and help us all out as we try and learn this fantastic aeroplane across the community. Okay, so using Navigraph charts then, which you guys should be able to see on your screens, you can see that we're going to be flying to Woody, our speed limit point, max 250 knots, and we're aiming to then get down towards Kirky, which is down here on the Woody 3 Bravo arrival. At Kirky, if we then look at the ILS charts for runway 19, of course, if you're on VATSIM and you've got controllers online, you could be vectored at any point throughout any of this, but we're going to follow the charts today. So Kirky is just here. We're then going to continue past the Affligem VOR 114.9, overfly the airport and the Brussels VOR 114.6 before heading outbound 040 degrees away from the Bub VOR to 10 miles, before then committing to a left turn round to effectively intercept the localizer and the glide slope for the ILS approach. So most of it's going to be done on LNAV. We're not going to be vectored. We might do a little bit of vectoring towards the end here to get ourselves onto a nice little intercept, 20-30 degrees to the ILS, and we're going to make use of this 10-mile fixed ring around Bub, because that is effectively going to be about 9.5 miles to the threshold roughly. Looking further down on the charts, you can see cross-section of the approach, and from here 9.1 DME from the threshold, which is where the 10-mile fixed ring from Brussels comes in handy. We're going to want to make sure we're at a mandatory 3,000 feet for a 3-degree glide slope down to runway 19. Minimums for today: 305 feet for our decision altitude, or Barrow as it's known in the Airbus and all that sort of stuff on the MCDU. You might be familiar with that, and RAD, which is our rad alt decision height, 200 feet above the ground. So we're going to tune that in, and we're going to go through the steps that we need to take to tune our ILS frequency in of treble 1.15 ILS runway 19 into Brussels, and our course there you can see on the charts 193 degrees. So we've got to get all of that set up before we commit into our descent, and it is coming soon actually, very soon. So from here then, we're looking at our NAV1 and our NAV2. You can see in our standby frequency box, I've already tuned in treble 1.15 into the standby boxes for both NAV1 and NAV2. That's the ILS frequency. I'm going to change NAV2 to Affligem 114.9. and I'll put that back in the active box. So before we intercept the ILS, we need to transfer both of these standby boxes into the active frequencies for both NAV1 and NAV2. That's important. We know the course for the ILS as well, so with that in mind, we also need to set both NAV1 and NAV2 courses 193 degrees. Like so. Minimums, they go in the box as well, 305. So, click the collar if you want the rad alt, but we're going to be using Barrow, and in the PFD, we're going to scroll up to 305. And we're going to check on the charts the airport elevation. Threshold is 105 feet, airport elevation is 175. So in the landing altitude box I've gone for 150, kind of almost in the middle, but do your best, depends on what airfield you're at. And as always, brief for the missed approach as well, because you never know, you might have to commit to one. Alrighty then, so I've just triggered descent now. We're going to make sure that we've got our arrival and weather data obtained and set. In the FMS, we're going to make sure that we've got our approach and our arrival input. So in the departure and arrivals tab, we're going to select arrivals. You're going to find the runway that you want. In this instance, we've selected ILS runway 19, and then the appropriate standard arrival route, the star that you will want to fly as well. And in this instance, we've activated Woody 3 Bravo. So if we were doing that fresh, for example, like so, it would ask for your transitions, and in this instance we've chosen Kirky. You could choose Antwerp as well, should you wish. If you choose it, you'll see it get selected like so. Make sure you exec any changes, and it will make sure that it's input the approach for you, and you want to work through the legs page just to check for any discontinuities that might have appeared throughout this, just to make sure that you're monitoring everything properly. We're going to descend with flight detent because there's a lot to explain on this very short hop that I'm doing from Amsterdam, so we need to basically help the aeroplane lose a bit of energy. And if you wish, you can use vertical speed mode to assist in your descent as well. So using the checklist that I've since devised, creating episode 1, 2 and 3, I've then created a free checklist which you can download for free on britishafgeek.com/PMDG-737. We've got our arrival and weather data set. The local QNH is 1030. We could make sure that we've got that set in the standby box like so. If you're in inches of mercury in the States, you could just flick the collar across like so as well. Landing altitude check. Radios are set. Of course, if we were using VATSIM, we might need to get the next frequency in, depending on if we're going to be speaking to an approach controller or a tower controller next, for example. But we know we've got NAV1 and NAV2 standby frequencies for the ILS, and we've tuned the relevant courses as well in NAV1 and NAV2. So we just go through and double check those. In the overhead then, wing and engine anti-ice as required, and MCP reset altitude, which we've done because we're now fitting into our descent like so. Altimeter is set. We've done that in the little box below standard there, 1013. Transition here today is about 4,000 feet. And approach is briefed, so we know from having had a look at the charts a moment ago, we're going to overfly Brussels Airport. From there, we're going to continue to descend down to about 3,000 feet on the local QNH 1013 to intercept the ILS Approach runway 19, course of 193 degrees, and we've got the frequencies 111.15 set in both NAV1 and NAV2. Missed approach, so if we do have to declare a missed approach, go around for any reason, we need to climb on a track 193 degrees, at 1,100 feet turn left, the max speed of 185 knots on a heading of 045 degrees, climbing to 3,000 and then as directed. Nice long runway. We're going to select whichever auto brake is the most suitable for what you need. So in this instance, we're going to select auto brake 1 for today. You could choose auto brake 2 if it was a short runway like we did in Skiathos. You might choose auto brake 3. And we're approaching our 10,000 feet point now. So below 10,000 feet, landing lights go on, runway turn-off lights go on, and the cabin lights as required, seatbelt signs as required. And at this stage, if we were on VATSIM, we would confirm our ATIS information as well. There is the airport. So what we've done through the initial part of the descent, the aeroplane told us it was unable to achieve 250 knots by Woody, which was the speed limit point, without using drag. And it gave us a warning on the scratch pad of the FMS, drag required. So I've clicked speed intervention mode, and I've then selected an airspeed for the aeroplane to achieve through the descent on VNAV. What I've then done, we could go back to VNAV now if we wanted to, and you can see it's respecting 250 now anyway because we've passed that speed limit point. I've then gone into flight detent with the speed brake to add drag to the aeroplane to help slow it down, and some of the approaches you might need to do that, others you won't. There's 10, flight level 100, landing lights on, runway turn lights off. The seatbelt signs are on automatic. Can turn them on at this point, and also give the crew a double ding should you wish. My cabin lighting is in the FMS settings panel here in the aircraft, and it's set to automatic, so I know that will be taken care of for me. You can see we've got 6 miles to AFI and we've got 19 miles to BUB, and BUB is the VOR over the airfield. We've got about 20 track miles to go to get to about 4,000 or 5,000 feet roughly. So we'll keep the altitude coming down to 4,000, which is our transition for today. Below that we will go to our local pressure, which we've already got pre-tuned QNH 1030. Winds in Brussels at the moment 050 degrees at 6 knots, variable 020 to 090. Ceiling visibility okay, 11 degrees Celsius for the temperature, and the dew point plus 3 degrees Celsius. QNH 1013, and no significant changes expected in the next 2 hours. Okie doke, so we're about to pass the AFI VOR, as you can see, and we don't need VOR 2 to be tuned to that anymore. We've got the ILS frequency tuned into the standby box for NAV2. We'll transfer that across so it's now active. We know we've got the course of 193 degrees tuned in over by the first officer there, so we'll tune that in and we can get rid of the VOR because it's not going to give us anything useful. And you can see now we've got the runway display, and we've also got the dashed white line as well. The blue dashed line is our missed approach path, which LNAV can help us with once we do declare a missed approach or have to go around for whatever reason it might be. Basically we follow the blue line as per the charts too. We're following the magenta over BUB, outbound, and then back upon ourselves as we go. At this stage now we're going to be a little bit slower. We can turn the collar, if you have turned it to the higher altitudes, to 10 degrees. We can turn it back to 30 degrees for when we go into heading mode shortly. And we don't need drag anymore, so let's get rid of the speed brake. And I'm now going to place that into the arm position as well, save me a job in a little while. So, all we've got left to do now, set our altimeter, turn over the Brussels VOR, and make our way in for an ILS approach. This isn't going to be an auto land as well, just in case you are wondering. We will hand fly the last little part, the latter part of the approach, because it's always good to do a bit of hand flying. It's always quite immersive, quite fun. But the aeroplane is capable of doing an auto land. So if you find yourself on an ILS approach which is capable of it, then of course give it a go. See if you can work it out. So, overflying the airfield ever so slightly, we now need to think about continuing our descent to about 3,000. We're going to bring our speed down as well. We're going to want to achieve about 180 knots. We know from the charts this section was an outbound track of 040. If we wanted to do a fixed ring, as we did talk about a little while, init ref, approach, going to go flaps 30. Don't forget this as well, folks. If you wanted a fixed ring, we could do bub, like so, /10, and then you get a green fixed ring there to assist us too. Below transition, let's change to the local pressure, and look at it, we're in a really high pressure atmosphere at the moment. QNH of 1030 hectopascals. It's added 1,000 foot to our altitude almost, about 700 feet, which is pretty big for a jump. There's our altitude C chord once more. Okay, now onto our approach checks then. Before top of descent, what you wanted to do is go into the index, go to approach, make sure the ILS frequency and the course is correct here. You can see the runway length, and then select at top of descent the speeds that you want. So don't forget that. I know I've omitted it. It can get a little bit busy on these short flights when I'm trying to record things. We're within our speed limits for flaps to be extended at the moment, so we're going to go flaps 5. They're in transit at the moment. And our speed is slowly coming away. Okay, so last little bit then. Speeds of flap 30, 132. Add 5, 137 knots. We're at 3,000 feet, so we're at a good altitude to incept the VOR, the ILS, sorry. We're going to turn VOR 1 off, and we're now going to flick NAV1 into the active, the ILS as well. And we've got 193 tuned too. Now if we move the heading bug around, just before we turn, 193. To 13 could be a good intercept heading. 20-30 degrees for the ILS intercept. We could round it up if we want to, 215 degrees. But I think in this instance we'll go for 220. Now at this point, ATC might tell you, clear the ILS approach runway 19, descend 2,500 feet and report established. When established, descend with a glide or something like that. So what they're telling you is you can descend a little bit further below the glide slope, as we're about to do now. And it will assist us capturing it from below, because you don't want to capture from above. Okay, so speed brake is armed. Approach mode, we're going to arm it in a second. We're going to go heading select mode now to go to 220 degrees, and at this stage let's arm approach. We want to turn CMDB on, and we're going to continue to decelerate the aeroplane down. We're going to do 160 until 4 DME. Go to the approach page and we can select 1903, which is our runway course. Now we know we want to climb to 3000, and with that in mind, once we capture the glide slope and begin our descent, we want to make sure we reset the MCP altitude to 3000 feet. We'll go flaps 10. And you can see now on the map we're 10 miles from the threshold. And the aeroplane has decelerated itself quite nicely. It's captured the ILS quite nicely. And we're on our way in. On the top of the PFD, you can see ILS, DME 8.5, and the glide slope is armed. So we're on the localizer, that's captured, it's green. So we're established now. We're just waiting for the diamond to move down to intercept that vertical line. The aeroplane will then follow the glide slope 3 degrees, and the GS in white below outhold will then become active. It will capture and it will go green, as has the localizer. Seven miles, let's go gear down. Glide slope's now alive. And we're going to go flaps 15. Now we want to set 137 and reset our MCP altitude for the missed approach. Flaps 25, speed's good. We've got one stage of flap left, which we want to have in the next sort of 1.5 miles. Landing gears confirmed down, 3 green. And if you have auto ignition switched off, it will say off up here instead of automatic, in which case you want to move the engine ignition mode start switches to the cont position. Okay, there's our approach speed. We're going to go flaps 30. We'll let the aeroplane stabilise. And we're going to monitor everything and be prepared to go around. And here we are, flying an ILS approach.
1000.
DCAS has gone to TA only. We're going to make sure our view is reset, and when we're happy, we can, at any point, whenever you guys feel comfortable, turn the autopilot off, reset the alarm, and if you want to as well, turn the auto throttle off too. You get the alert warning, we can disable that too. We are flying, all of a sudden actually, a slight tailwind of about 6 knots, but it is in limits still. And it's becoming a little bit more of a 6-knot crosswind now, variable. So it's quite an interesting bit of weather for us here at Brussels today. Here's our minimums. We are stable. We are playing with the crosswind though.
Minimums. $100. 50. 30. 20. 10.
And let the gear gently come down. Speed brakes deployed. Reverse screen. And auto brake is decelerating us as well. We've taken over braking. A little bit quick there, but just vacate when it's appropriate. And once you get past the hold points, we can move, clear the runway, report vacated, and we can go into our after landing checks and whatever else is required. So, boss lights on to steady. Off, the fuel pump is confirmed on. We can go APU start, flaps up, spoiler retract. TCAS set as required. Some airports like you to keep it on, some like to put it on standby, so just go with whatever is the local requirements. Landing and runway turn lights off. We can work through here. 1, 2, 3, 4 taxi lights on. Anti-ice as required. Water brake off. Propeats up in the overhead panel. They can come off. Vacate left here. And then we'll go right onto the inners. Here at Brussels. Aerosoft Brussels Airport, by the way, folks. It's beautiful. APU's on. You can see we've got the gen powering as well, and then after about a minute we can APU bleed on and then perhaps turn the power, change the power setting across. And then as before, just before we pick a stand and turn onto it, we can pop the taxi lights off. We've got the APU bleed now switched on because it is on, stable. It's been on for about a minute as well. We can turn all of those to the on position, and we can move APU bus gens on as well for 1 and 2. And we'll turn into stand here. If you have the Aerosoft's VDGS module, then of course you could activate it prior to departing from whatever airport you're heading out of, so that it's all up and running for when you arrive into Brussels too. And then park and brake on, and we'll work through our shutdown checks. So there we have it, folks. ILS approaches in the PMDG 737-700 for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I hope you found it useful. Hope you found it enjoyable as well to watch. Share your tips, tricks, any thoughts and comments in the comments section down below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe as well while you're here. Just make sure before top of descent you've got all your approach data sets. Make sure you set both NAV1 and NAV2 for the course, and the frequencies for your ILS approach. And if you find that you're flying in towards the approach a little bit too quick, then take the speed off, extend the flaps a little earlier, and give yourselves some more time as well as you try and learn this wonderful aeroplane. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you join me in a live stream in the very near future. Take care.